A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to StudyIQ English. Welcome to the Hindu News class today for 11th November 2025. Very good morning, Sita Ram. So happy to see you, dear. As other students keep joining in, let me quickly show you today's news articles. And like every day, the target is to cover all UPSC relevant news articles. Various news events that are crucial for the UPSC exam from GS paper 1 to 4 for the purpose of optionals or for prelims. Let us see which points can we take for the exam itself and which points can be used by us in the mains answer writing later on. And on that note, the first two articles are editorial articles because we always start with editorial. That's page number 6. The remaining 5 articles are quite short, so they are, you can believe, more prelims oriented. There is another lengthy one, but that's on Pay Commission of India, and another one on the elections that are going on in Iraq. So I would say today the newspaper is dominated by two themes. One clearly is because in Brazil, the COP30 summit has started. We know this time it is a milestone summit happening 10 years after Paris Agreement. So news is full of that. Second, unfortunately, yesterday a blast took place in New Delhi, taking the lives of some citizens. Now, this is a shocking event. Naturally, it's the breaking news for today. So, yes, the paper is full of news items regarding that. And then there is one more thing. The news also is talking about elections in Iraq. So, IR is also a dominating theme for today's newspaper. Let's one by one keep picking them up and analyzing them. Okay. So, very good morning once again, aspirant Reshma, Golu, Sitaram was the first one to join us, Aman, Saurav. Very good morning. Yes, the Red Fort blast. Indeed, that's a shocking thing that has happened. So now the government is investigating why should it happen and who exactly is responsible behind the blast. Security arrangements. Surveillance is underway right now in Delhi. That is very, very unfortunate. Yes, Golu, that's correct. Very unfortunate indeed. Okay, so now let's quickly see and begin with the first article for the day. As I mentioned, this is page number 6, editorial article. It says, what the South India wants from COP30. With respect to GS paper 3 of UPSC mains, in this article we are looking at themes such as United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. We are looking at Paris Agreement. Yes, we are looking at nationally determined contributions, but this is also important for GS paper 2 because we are looking at international relationship between the poor South and the rich global North countries. The key issue here is the ongoing summit in Belém in Brazil that's called COP30 summit this time. Conventions of Party 30 summit. Very good morning, Ashok Pa. Okay, so what does this article say? Let's quickly brief it up. Very important for UPSC, article says 10 years have passed. 1 decade has passed since the Paris Agreement happened in 2015. By now, we all understand about the Paris Agreement. We know that Paris Agreement is a milestone environmental global treaty that made it compulsory for various countries in the world to make their own nationally determined contributions. The amount to which they can reduce their carbon emission of a certain percentage of their GDP by 2030. It is also a milestone because under Paris Agreement, the global North countries, the rich countries of the North had promised that they will be supplying dollars 100 billion USD, 100 billion, to support the poor southern countries to shift towards renewable green energy. In reality, both these targets have not been met properly. So this time the COP30 is happening in Brazil, especially because this is an area that is situated in the Amazon forest basin. Hence, it is a good reminder to the global community that we need to protect the lungs of the planet, such as the Amazon. This article says 10 years have passed since the last Paris summit. But the climate crisis has only become worse and worse and worse. South Asia is home to about 2 billion people in the world. Today, if we say the earth has 11 billion people, let's understand South Asia alone is home to about 2 billion out of this. Okay, very good morning, Biswajit. That's absolutely valid. Yes. Okay, you're welcome then. Yes, that's correct. That's correct, Sitaram. Very good morning, Rishi. Happy to see you, dear. So now, if the earth has 8 billion people, South Asia alone has 2 billion people. South Asia is also one of the world's most climate vulnerable groups. It is the most vulnerable region in the whole world. Why do we say it's vulnerable? Let me prove it to you. Intensified monsoon floods and landslides in the Himalaya, Bangladesh, Nepal, India, rising heat waves, India, Pakistan, sea level rise and coastal erosion, flooding in the coastal areas, Maldives, Sri Lanka, glacial lake outburst, in Himalayan states, particularly Uttarakhand, Sikkim, and in countries like Nepal and Bhutan. Hence, point proven, South Asia is one of the most climate vulnerable regions in the whole world. At the same time, South Asia is also home to about 2 billion people out of the total 8 billion people in the world. That's correct, Reshma. Very good. Absolutely. So, if this is the situation, today the global multilateral climate governance has become weak. Why do we say that global bodies like United Nations are becoming weak today? One, climate finance commitment has not been met. Yesterday also I told you, and today also I mentioned, during Paris Agreement, countries like America, France, Germany had promised that we will pay $100 billion every year to the global south countries to help them in adopting non-renewable technology. Did that happen? No. In reality, even $60 billion was not given. Today at COP30, Global South is demanding for a higher amount. They feel today the need is 350 billion US dollar per year, per annum, to be able to deal with transition towards new renewable and non-polluting energy. Is that happening? No. So the countries promised, but they did not give the money. Second problem, major power withdrawals. US has given a very negative example by withdrawing from Paris Agreement. Once US stepped out of Paris Agreement, it has shown that many other countries will also lose faith in that. Third, geopolitical tensions and trade protectionism have reduced collective climate action. When President Trump announced the tariff policy, saying that I will tax countries like India, Brazil, and China up to 50% tariff, US President also said that I will not allow the transfer of AI fabrication technology and semicon technology to these countries. That also means countries like America are unwilling to share renewable energy goals with developing countries like India and Brazil. Despite these problems, many developing countries today in the global south, especially South Asia, out of frustration, out of necessity, are now trying to take their own leadership responsibility. Why does South Asia leadership matter so much? One, as I said, South Asia is home to 2 billion people. About 25% of global population is living in South Asia. At the same time, it has many vulnerable ecological spots, including the Trans-Himalaya, including the Indo-Gangetic Plain, including the Western Ghats of India, including the Indian Ocean region, mangroves like Sundarbans. All these are delicate areas in South Asia. Several countries today, out of frustration from the developed countries, have now started building their own local disaster management, resilience, and community adaptation programs. Why? Because all of us today realize that 10 years are gone since the Paris Agreement, and how many countries from the global north are serious about fulfilling their NDCs? Hardly any country. Article is calling this phenomena as the Achilles heel. It's the phenomena of the Achilles heel. You make a very big target and later you fail to achieve that target. What is the point of having a big target then? There is a major gap between taking a pledge and fulfilling that pledge. For example, let me prove it to you. Today, as we are having the COP30 conference in Belem, there is one report that has confirmed out of all the countries, only 65 nations have submitted their enhanced, updated, nationally determined contributions after 2020 pandemic. What will you say to that? Very good morning, my dear. Sumed, Rahul, Golu. Now tell me about it. Yes, Reshma and Rishi. Sitaram, did you see that? Look at this. 15 after 10 years of 2015 Paris Agreement. Today in Belem, we are realizing that in the whole world, only 65 countries have updated their nationally determined contributions after 2020. No other country has done that. Good morning, Muskan. Okay, that's a good question, Biswajit. After this article, I will explain to you Paris Agreement. Okay? All right? All right. Good morning, Muskan. So you see, only 65 countries have updated their NDCs after 2020. Another study says that out of 203 international trade climate cooperations, initiatives that were launched in 2015, out of all 203 climate agreements of 2015, only 5% of them have met their goals. That means poor policy implementation, poor monitoring, and poor responsibility being taken by various countries. This highlights a major failure of not only Paris Agreement but also the commitment to reduce carbon emission by a certain percent of your GDP by 2030. Clearly, we can't even fulfill our sustainable development goals by 2030. That's very clear. What do we need to do today? One thing is, today the whole world needs to strengthen their regional climate forums. When we understand that global climate forums are not successful, whether it's Paris Agreement, whether it was the Kyoto Protocol, whether it is the Sustainable Development Goals, we understand that most countries do not fulfill their promise. Is there a solution? Yes. Solution is to look into an alternative path now. And what is this alternate path? Alternate path means rather than depending on global forums, let us now start depending on regional forums. Very good, aspirant. India updated its agreement recently. Very good. In 2022 August, India has updated its NDC. But majority of countries have not done that. Very good morning, Akash. Good morning, Kojumba dear. You are here today. Thank you for explaining. So Biswajit, Kojumba has explained beautifully about Paris Agreement. Thank you for your input, dear. Please read that and you will get clarity on that. That's very nice of you, Kojumba. Okay. So now you realize if countries are not fulfilling their promise at the global level, today we need regional climate cooperations. And what could be the regional climate cooperations? For example, what about the BIMSTEC, the Bay of Bengal area regional cooperation of which India is also a part? What about BRICS? What about the G20? What about these platforms? If platforms like United Nations cannot fulfill their promises, then perhaps countries should come together and discuss their climate goals in BIMSTEC, through BRICS, through G20 and other alternative forums. At the same time, we can make the government more inclusive of panchayat, gram sabha and local level institution, self-help group of women. These could be utilized to achieve climate goals. A very good example comes from ASEAN. Recently, we had the 47th ASEAN meeting in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It resulted in India announcing a very important step, India-ASEAN Maritime Cooperation 2026. Here, India, along with other ASEAN countries, has committed to reduce the impact of pollution on the sea, to reduce the impact of marine pollution in times to come. It's a very good example of how regional platforms can also try to solve climate problems. Then there are other examples. A very good example could be the CDRI. I don't know if you have heard about CDRI. Let me talk about it now. CDRI means India's Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. What is CDRI? Very important for GS Paper 3, Science, Technology, Climate Change. CDRI means Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. It is an initiative taken by India, a global partnership that India has launched in 2019. And what does it mean? It is a multi stakeholder organization that has members like various other countries, of course, India. United Nations agencies are involved. Multilateral development banks are involved. Private sector companies are involved. Various universities and institutions are involved. The aim of CDRI is to build capacity, to share knowledge, to share technology, and to provide technical assistance to make such infrastructure that is more climate resilient. A kind of infrastructure that will cope with upcoming climate disasters. India is a very important partner here, so I really request you to remember this thoroughly. Okay? Please remember that, everyone. You can use this in answer writing. Also for prelims, it is important. CDRI, India's own Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. This again is a very good example about how countries can promote regional cooperations towards mitigating climate change. All these institutions, whether it is ASEAN, BIMSTEC, whether it's CDRI, all of them can together work towards what? Towards making sure we create a society, an infrastructure, houses, buildings, public places that are capable of tolerating disaster. For example, Japan. Japan is a great case study here. Japan is a highly seismic area, prone to multiple kind of earthquakes every fortnight. But look at the buildings in Japan. Not only do they have inbuilt shock absorption, they also have a flexible foundation. They don't crumble down when there is an earthquake. Majority of poor communities are still using wooden and lighter materials. All these villages are ready to evacuate in the case of any emergency. So you see, these are protocols that we take to become climate resilient. So today, if the global community is failing us, definitely we can think about using local platforms for that. Because climate change is already visible now. You know, gone are the days, you will agree, when people used to say one day global warming will happen. Today, we are witnessing global warming. I mean, I think all of us are aware. And those of my students who are coming from Delhi, NCR, I think you are experiencing firsthand what it feels to live and to breathe in an air that is today highly intoxicated, that's highly poisoned. AQI is dangerous today. What it feels to be in places like Uttarakhand and Sikkim, where recently so many innocent people lost their lives because of flash floods, because of landslides. Well, this is climate change. And so many islands which are now worried that very soon they may submerge. There was a study which said 4 millimeters annual is the rise in the sea level. That means definitely the island and the coastal areas are not safe anymore. There is a estimate created by Asian Development Bank, ADB. It says days above 35 degrees Celsius have now become common in South Asia. During summers, most of the cities are experiencing between 35 to 45 degrees Celsius temperature. By the end of 2100, this could mean a further increase. And do you think humans can survive in this situation? Very difficult. Looking at country-specific disasters, Nepal is extremely prone today to glacial outbursts. Maldives, the rise of submergence of the island nation itself. India, heat waves, coastal flooding, declining air quality, forest fires, flash floods in places like Chennai are now becoming common. Looking at Sri Lanka, water scarcity, increasing dryness of soil, increasing salinity of soil. All these are examples of how South Asia is prone to climate change. Today, there is not only need for guidance, there is a need for money, there is a need for institutional support. But that institutional support is not coming because globally, All the forums are dominated by nations like America, who choose to walk out of Paris agreement, who have not even declared their NDCs. They have not even paid the promised climate finance. What do we expect from countries like that? They are not showing responsibility. So now, according to this article, there is a need for LLA. And what is LLA? LLA means locally led adaptation. What does it mean? Locally led adaptation. When you know that the richer countries of global north will not help you, you need to develop your own capacity. Previous failures have shown that developed countries are not going to help us. It has also shown that developing countries are still struggling to get basic money, to get basic climate finance, and they don't trust also. Now, developing countries do not have the same kind of trust on developed countries anymore. They understand that if we demand more money, America will walk out. Recently, America also announced under President Trump that we will now not spend money on United Nations peacekeeping forces. You see, repeated such withdrawals and protectionism has proven the point that NDCs or Paris Agreement may never give you a real result. The developed countries are not committed to that as much. Neither are they on the track to meet their 2030 Sustainable Development Goals or NDCs, nationally determined contributions. So today, what is the choice we are left with? Today, when we look at Belém, Brazil, the venue of COP30, there is one thing very clear. Global South has understood the irresponsibility of Global North. Today, Global South has three very clear demands. One, developed countries must update their NDCs immediately under the Paris Agreement and commit that they will do everything it takes to keep on temperature rise below 1.5 degree as compared to the pre-industrial level. Second, developed countries must update their carbon finance mechanism. Rather than giving us $100 billion, please provide us $300 to $350 billion annually. If you want us to shift towards renewable energy. And third, transparency is very, very important. By 2035, the idea should be to provide $1.3 trillion. I say again, $1.3 trillion to developing countries by the end of 2035. But there is a clarity that's needed about who will pay, how much will be paid, by when will the installments come, or whether nothing will be done and all of this will only be symbolic again. Today, South Asia categorically demands fund, timeline, transparency. These are three things that we need today. Apart from that, South Asia also wants more technological inclusion. South Asia feels they have not received enough technological support from Global North. For example, to shift towards clean and green energy, we need better use of AI technology. We need better semiconductors. We need better access to rare earth material mining, refining, and processing. We need more access to big data. We need better blockchain and satellite imaging. All these technologies we do not have today, as much as the global north has. So that's the need of the hour. That developed countries must do this kind of technology support sharing system too. Access to not only renewable energy technology, but also to storage facilities. Grid storage is an important area. We have already spoken about how solar energy is not reliable. It keeps fluctuating. Afternoon, it's very good. By evening, there is a decline in capacity. Plus, majority countries have monsoonal climate. For them, it may not be suitable. So yes, the developing countries also need some kind of grid storage mechanism. They also need more loans. They need more loans so that they can swap from fossil fuel to non-fossil fuel based technology. That's the need that we have. So now it is up to us to see whether the COP30 today in Belém, Brazil is a success, or once again it is only a symbolic initiative where the poor countries keep hoping and their hopes are constantly getting belied. That's what we will see now. And at the end of the day, always remember, today the new demand from the global south is very clear. By 2035, we want US dollar 1 trillion in order to support our climate resilience initiatives. If you can provide that, yes, it is successful. If you fail to provide that, all these conferences are nothing but paperwork. That's the idea. So quickly we will see the question. Okay. Yes, Kojumba, it's on another level, but absolutely. Yes, Deepak, the Delhi blast is raging right now. Rishi, I fully understand about the internet connectivity. You can connect as much as is possible. If you have a doubt, I'll clarify to you. Yes, Reshma, the grid emission factor, very, very good. Correct. So the question, with reference to climate action and regional cooperation in South Asia, consider the following statements. One, the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, CDRI, is a global initiative that's led by India aimed at promoting resilient infrastructure system against climate change. Second, the global goal on adaptation under United Nations Framework Convention Climate Change primarily focuses on setting punitive compliance. What is punitive? Punitive means something that gets you punishment, something that will make you punished. So, the global goal on adaptation under UNFCCC is based on creating punishment if you do not comply to the mechanism by countries who fail to meet their goals. And three, South Asian countries have called for climate finance that is predictable, that's concessional, that is accessible, particularly for adaptation and resilience needs. So, which of these statements do you think are correct? Today, I'm really, really missing few students like Eric, like Dipesh. Vikash is not there. Mumtaz is not there. Akhtar is not there. Yes, it's okay. So, Reshma has started answering for us. There comes Saurav's answer, and both of them have said that the answer is B, and that makes me extremely happy. Yes, the answer will be B. That's correct, Rishi. Very well answered, beautifully answered. We all know first statement is correct. Yes, today the countries are asking for $1 trillion by 2035, and the global south also wants more clarity on who will pay and when will you pay. So third is valid. First is also valid. Yes, CDRI was initiated by India in 2019. It is a multi-stakeholder cooperation dialogue in which the idea is to promote more disaster resilience capacity among various countries. Yes, many agencies like UN agencies are also a part of that. Okay. So first is also correct. Second is not correct. All these goals are not something that you will be punished for not doing. These are not punitive in nature. They will not give you punishment. These are all about deciding how much can you reduce and then declaring your indices on that basis. So second is also correct. So very well answered. Sitaram Ko Jumba, it's correct. GB, it's correct. Mumtaz, I didn't realize you were there. Thank you so much for joining in. Lovely to see you, dear. Akash, and by the name, code name, OORED. It's correct. Very well answered. Very good. Perfectly answered. Now, next article is also editorial article. And we are looking at Bhutan and India relationship. And when we look at the relationship of India with some other country, I think you understand it is GS paper 2, because GS paper 2 is also international relations and foreign policy. So we are looking at India-Bhutan relationship. Whenever I talk about Bhutan, most of my students start thinking that, they start relating it to some kind of philosophy topic. Because when I talk about philosophy-based essay issues, I always say that use Bhutan's example, write about the gross national happiness from Bhutan, write about how Bhutan is one of the happiest countries of the world. I often say about that. That's correct. That's correct. Yes. The leap, that's correct. So we always talk about that. But this time we are looking at it from a very international relations and foreign policy perspective. Yes, the topic is India-Bhutan, GS paper 2, international relations. What has happened? Prime Minister of India, Shri Modi, will now be visiting Bhutan. Why will he be visiting Bhutan? Because this is a milestone in India-Bhutan relationship. What has happened? The former king of Bhutan. Now, in Bhutan, the kings are called as K4, K5. K4, K5. So right now I'm talking about K4. Yes, very good. Gilifu. Very good, Reshma. Absolutely. So I'm talking about K4 right now. India-Bhutan relations. Indian Prime Minister visiting Bhutan. Why? King 4, K4, former king of Bhutan, Jigme Singye Wangchuk. Let's call him J.S. Wangchuk. Now, Wangchuk must also be reminding you of the Ladakh controversy. Which articles were involved? Article 371, Schedule 6, National Security Act. Remember, we have spoken about them thoroughly this time. Okay, so we are looking at K4. Bhutan's ex-king, former king, King Jigme Singye Wangchuk. Very good. Excellent. Crypto tourism. That's very good, Dilpesh. Dilip, sorry. Very good. Yes, that's what Reshma also said. Very, very good. Yes, Sonam Wangchuk. Yeah, I know it will remind you of that. I knew that. Okay, so let's look at Bhutan again. Former king of Bhutan, Jigme Singye Wangchuk, K4, is turning 70 years old. He's celebrating his 70th birthday today. And leadership, his leadership continued in Bhutan from 1997 to about 2006. That is decades of rulership he has done. He has remained a leader for these many years, 1972 to 2006. Why is his reign so important for Bhutan? Because he was the person who gave Bhutan its foreign policy, its political identity. He was the man who gave Bhutan economic modernization and its global identity. He is very famously also known as the Bodhisthava King. What is he known as? The Bodhisthava King. It is K4, King Jigme Wangchuk, who is turning 70 years today. He is also known as the Bodhisthava King in Bhutan. Okay, so K4 is also called Bodhisthava King. Very good, Dilpesh. Very good. Dilip, sorry. Okay, so Bodhisthava King. He is remembered for introducing a very important concept. Whenever I take the essay class, I will tell you this at least 100 times. That if you are writing philosophy based essay, because in philosophy topics of essay you often nowadays in UPSC get topics like happiness, satisfaction, holistic development, minimalism, kindness. So I often talk about Bhutan there as a case study to write in your essays. Even for the ethics paper it is important. So it was K4, the Bodhisattva king, who gave the very famous concept of gross national happiness. As most other countries in the world measure gross domestic product, the total value of goods and services produced in the economy within 1 year, it is Bhutan that creates gross national happiness index. Now, India's Prime Minister Mr. Modi is now visiting Bhutan on this occasion for his birthday, symbolizing the deep historical relationship that India and Bhutan have had. Okay, so if you look at the Wangchuk dynasty in Bhutan, you will realize that the most important king definitely was K4. He was the fourth king of Bhutan. That's why we call him K4. And King Jigme Singye Wangchuk, as I said, not only modernized Bhutan, he is the man responsible behind the deep relationship India and Bhutan have today. Now, after a certain point, K4 gave way to his son K5. He then left the rulership and he provided space, he provided authority for his incumbent named as King Jigme Kesar Namgyal Wangchuk. He is therefore called K5, the current king of Bhutan. Because he is the fifth king, we call him K5. Okay? So he is the person. And what is he doing? He is building on the legacy of K4 by still creating more reforms in Bhutan, by focusing on the young people in Bhutan. Now you will be surprised to know Bhutan is one country where majority of people who want to participate in politics and decision making are very, very young, very young. So he is the one who is giving focus to youth development, to digital Bhutan, also to good diplomatic relations with India. On this occasion, What are the key contributions of the previous king, Bodhisattva King K4, that are being celebrated today? The biggest contribution of this person was GNP, the gross national product in Bhutan. There are four pillars on which gross national product is calculated in Bhutan. One, sustainable, equitable, social economic development. Second, environmental conservation. Third, preserving your local culture and local identity. Fourth, good governance that should change the life of every single citizen. Today, the Gross National Happiness Index of Bhutan is used for national planning. It is one of its own kind global model that inspires and that should inspire other countries of the world to take similar kind of initiatives. Now, he is also the man who led Bhutan from a monarchy into a slow transition towards democratic representation. He was the first person to introduce a constitution in Bhutan in 2008. That's the second contribution of K4. First is gross national product. First is the gross national happiness product. Gross national happiness, GNH, that is based on four pillars. Second is that in 2008 he introduced the constitution in Bhutan. He was the one who shifted Bhutan from an absolute monarchy, rulership of king and queen, towards constitutional monarchy, where parliamentary democracy is also coexisting alongside the king and queen. He was the one who actually invited the Border Road Organization, BRO, from India to Bhutan. To do what? To build strategic roads in Bhutan. He was the one who improved connectivity in the deep Himalayan regions. K4 was also responsible for administrative, education, healthcare institutions in Bhutan, in which India has helped tremendously. Just like India is helping Taliban today, India has helped Bhutan tremendously. If you look at India-Bhutan relations under K4, Bodhisattva King, you will realize it was with the participation of K4 and the Indian government that both of them recognized China as a common concern. And Bhutan chose to ally with India, not China. Both of them expanded hydropower cooperation, tourism and education exchanges, Buddhism cultural exchanges. They both promoted cultural cooperation, cross-border, people-to-people relationship. K4 recognized that Bhutan's sovereignty was only secure if Bhutan creates a partnership with India. Rather than being isolated, it is India's partnership that will protect Bhutan from any aggression coming from Chinese side. Looking at hydropower, that is the key of diplomacy between India and Bhutan. Because Bhutan is a country that uses Himalayan rivers to generate electricity. Recently, we had spoken about Arunachal Pradesh. Remember? And then I had also discussed with you the run of the river project. I told you run of the river projects are natural river valley projects. They do not create any big dam or a construction. They use the natural flow of river water to generate electricity. And Bhutan is a champion of that. Very good, Reshma. Absolutely. The Doklam crisis. Correct. That's correct. That's very correct. Dilip, that's correct. That's what we spoke about. Yes? Absolutely. Buddhism is what we are talking about. Yes, Akash, that's correct. Yeah, the Doklam tension. Correct, Rishi. Very good. Yes, it's the most peaceful country. But still, Chinese aggression is a matter of concern. So today, Bhutan is the nation that uses so many run-of-the-river projects to use Himalayan river water to generate electricity. And what does India do? India finances, constructs, and purchases that electricity back from Bhutan. So India is a great consumer of Bhutan's generated electricity. Bhutan is a great recipient of monetary help and income revenue from India for selling hydropower. Now this means Bhutan gets revenue and India gets energy security. Yes, Sumedh, that's an excellent mutual relationship between the two. Now, if you look at the case study, then let's look at the Punat Sangchu power plant. It is the Punat Sangchu 2 hydropower plant. A hydropower plant which is having a capacity of 1020 megawatts, constructed under India-Bhutan government partnership. India is generating So much energy security from here. India gets energy, electricity from here, hydroelectricity, and Bhutan is getting tremendous revenue by selling this energy to India. India was also responsible. It was our Prime Minister who had inaugurated that program. That means even alongside the Bodhisattva king, his successor K5 also believes in a strong cooperation with India. Another great thing about future of Bhutan is that now Bhutan is also trying to invite a little bit private participation. Although Bhutan strongly believes in preserving its nature and its forest cover, but today it wants India's partnership and support to move away from only government funded development to private sector participation. A very good example could be Tata Power, Adani Power, who are now participating in future hydropower projects within Bhutan. You see, that's a very important milestone. Till now, through the government participation, Bhutan would produce hydropower with Himalayan river. India would buy that power. Both are in a win-win situation. But now Bhutan wants companies from India like Tata and Adani to also participate in infrastructure development, hydropower generation. That will mean more jobs in Bhutan, more electricity for India, more revenue for Bhutan. That's wonderful. At the same time, India and Bhutan are also closely associated with digital initiatives. India's UPI, India's online digital payment infrastructure to be shared with Bhutan. India also contributes in repairing, preserving, conserving monasteries across Bhutan. India invites scholars from Bhutan into scholarship and educational programs. At the same time, when it comes to school, hospital, and telecom, there also Indian footprint is very high in Bhutan. Absolutely, like you're saying, Muskan, correct? The railway line, that is also valid. Yes. Now, this article also reminds you of a very important event that had happened in 2003, and this event is called Operation All Clear. Last week in news, I had spoken about Operation White Cauldron. If you remember, that was about India's government trying to stop the narcotic racket in India, drug manufacturing and sale. Now we are talking about 2003. Operation All Clear. Remember this. Operation All Clear. Please remember. Operation All Clear was the turning point in India-Bhutan relationship. What was Operation All Clear? Operation All Clear took place where? In Bhutan. It was conducted by the Bodhisattva king, K4. What was it? So many Indian militant groups, non-state actors of terrorism from India, such as Assam's ULFA, NDFB, Kamtapur Liberation Organization KLO, all of them were operating from bases inside Bhutan. It was K4, Bodhisattva king, who personally led the Bhutani army to remove them one by one. And Indian government also supported. As soon as Bhutan made these terror infrastructure leave Bhutan, Indian army took the charge at the border. And then Indian army also proceeded with arresting and controlling the terrorism menace. That was a great step jointly taken by both the countries to stop the presence of cross-border terrorist infiltration. So remember Operation All Clear 2003 Bhutan. Initiated by K4, supported by the Indian government. That's correct, Reshma. Okay. Now look at strategic relationship. Bhutan shares a very sensitive border with China along the Doklam Plateau, just as Rishi and Reshma and all other people were saying here. Okay. So now what is happening? Bhutan shares a very sensitive territory, border with China, near the Doklam Plateau. King 4, Bodhisattva king, has had a deep understanding of these foreign policy issues. He directly understands India-China relation also, Bhutan-China relation also. And he always continues to advise his successor, King 5. He always gives guidance to his successor, King 5, the new one. That means, despite not actively being the king, he continues to be the political leader in the form of inspiring, motivating, and guiding the today's Bhutani foreign policy. Because he understands all the strategic dynamics of the border area. Today, as Prime Minister Shri Modi is visiting Bhutan, it is once again a reminder of the deep interest India has in neighborhood first policy. It symbolizes trust, mutual dependence, cultural integration, and transactional diplomacy that both the countries have. It also demonstrates India's continued special relationship with Bhutan, even in a world where so many changes are taking place strategically. And China continues to hold on to its aggressive foreign policy. Very good. Absolutely, Rishi. Whether it's Singapore, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, France, Qatar, Trinidad and Tobago, very good. India's UPI is now being actively used. True. And that's true for Bhutan as well. Britain as well, Mumtaz. Very good. Okay. So that's about India-Bhutan relation. Remember about the king for Bodhisattva king. Remember he guides his successor, the K5. Also do remember how the relations evolved. 2003 Operation All Clear. Remember hydroelectric power points and sensitive border across Doklam Plateau. Quickly the question. Consider the following statements regarding K4. King Jigme Singye Wangchuk of Bhutan. He abdicated. Abdicated means left behind. It's a very good English word. You often get synonyms and antonyms like that. Abdication. Where do you get them? Paper B. Language paper UPSC mains. Okay, so these words are good to remember. He left behind the throne in favor of his son in 2006 too. He is credited with strengthening hydropower cooperation between India and Bhutan. And 3, he personally led Operation All Clear in 2003 to remove India's terrorist non-state actors from Bhutani territory. Very well answered. Very, very good. Absolutely, Reshma, aspirant. Mumtaz, Sitaram, Muskan, Rishi, excellent. It is D. All 3 are correct here. They will have to be correct. That's what we discussed, and all these 3 are valid. Now, quickly the next article. Article begins by saying, very good Kojumba. That's correct, bacha. Very, very good. D is the answer. Now, quickly the next article. Very interesting. Yes, it is GS paper 2. Once again, it is international relations. See what the, yes, Saurav, it's correct. What the article says? Article says everybody is focusing on Bihar assembly election. That's brilliant. Correct. KK, that's correct. Now, everybody is focusing on Bihar election. First, we started talking about the SIR, Special Intensive Revision. Today, we are talking about who will win the Bihar election. We are celebrating that, yes, the turnout of voters is 64.6%. It is very, very good. Women are also participating. All that is beautiful. But everybody is only focusing on Bihar election. Why are not we focusing on another election that is also taking place? Say about 4,000 kilometers away from us. So 4,000 kilometers west of us, another interesting election is taking place in Iraq now. And this is an excellent opportunity for India to redefine its relationship with Iraq. So this article looks at India-Iraq dynamics. Therefore, it's GS paper 2 international relations. What does the article say? Article is saying finally, after a long time, Iraq is now having parliamentary elections 2025. Parliamentary elections 2025. On November 11th, that is today, as the whole country is focusing on Bihar, Iraq is having its 6th parliamentary election. What is Iraq having? Yes, that's true, Rishi. Yeah, it's funny. We are all looking at Bihar election, but 4,000 kilometers away, Iraq is having its 6th parliamentary election in 2025. This is an event of major regional and global geopolitical importance. Iraq has suffered from dictatorship, foreign occupation, too much interference by America and Iran, so much civil war, insurgency, delicate democratic process that has been destroying the stability of West Asia for a long time. So today, as Iraq is now going to have the 6th parliamentary election in 2025, it could be a great milestone. What are the important features of Iraqi election? Yes, that's correct. Correct, Dilip. We are having second phase of Bihar election, but article is saying enough of Bihar election. Let's look at Iraq. Okay. Let's understand Iraq is a proportional democratic electoral system. What is it? Proportional representation system of election. There are total about 329 seats in Iraqi parliament. About 7,744 candidates. Among these, there are many independent candidates who are going to participate here. Looking at who is participating, these are a mix of political groups like the Shia group, Sunni groups, the Kurdish forces. Recently, we had spoken about Kurdistan. Clearly, I had shown you the map also. If you remember, those who are taking the sessions regularly, I had shown you that map also. The overlapping area. Syria, Iran, Iraq, I showed you a detailed map of Kurdistan. The Kurdish minority who wanted a separate country for themselves. Recently, Turkish leader Erdogan has said, okay, let's not fight, let's negotiate. But what did Kurdish people say? That don't make fake promises. Our leader is still under your arrest since 1999. Until you release him, what kind of negotiation are you talking about? That was Kurdish politics. Today, yes, very good, Reshma. Yes, Bacha. Today, as we are talking about Iraq election, it is proportional system of election, proportional representation, about 329 seats. Who is participating? Majority political groups are Shia, some are Sunni, majority, and some are Kurdish people. It is a mix, complete mix. Nearly 40% candidates. Now, this is very interesting. Remember that. 40% candidates are under 40 years. Can you imagine that? 40% candidates under 40 years. Look how the world is changing now. First, you had Nepal, Gen Z protest. Then you had Madagascar, Gen Z protest. Then, just now I told you that how in Bhutan majority people are young, and now fourth example we are seeing. In Iraq, in politics, 40% of candidates are below 40, and that's very young by global standards, very young. Now, talking about women representation, West Asia is often known to not give sufficient rights to women. But interestingly, in Iraq, it is legally mandated that 25% of seats should be reserved for women quota. So there is on paper some representation of women. Now, what is going on in Iraq right now? Prime Minister Mr. Mohammad Shia al-Sudani. Mr. Mohammad Shia al-Sudani is now trying to seek re-election. He says that I will win the election because I am the one who has created 1 million jobs. I am the one who has given 2,500 public projects to Iraq. But opposition parties and independent candidates are blaming Prime Minister Mohammad Shia al-Sudani of corruption, favoritism, nepotism. They say he is an ally of America. It is because of Mohammad al-Sudani that US is still present in Iraq. People blame him for that. In Iraq, we still have the Muhasa system. Under Muhasa system, some kind of government jobs are strictly reserved. They are allocated on the basis of religious and caste and sectarian lines. That is the Muhasa system. Now, recently you heard about the Kafala system. In UPSC, you recently heard about the Kafala system. Remember, what was Kafala system? Saudi Arabia? Kafala system? Don't forget that, important. Yes. Now, we are not talking about Kafala system. That's a valid statement, my dear. Reshma, Kujumba, Mumtaz, MK, Sumed. Yes, you remember. I'm so happy that you remember. So proud of you. Very good. So recently you spoke about Kafala system. Today we are talking about Iraq. What is Iraq? Muhasa system. Iraq? Yes, Reshma. Muhasa system. Under Muhasa system in Iraq even today, a lot of government jobs are still reserved. They are reserved for sectarian groups. Some kind of ethnic, racial reservation is still going on. That means there is too much nepotism, too much favoritism. There is no transparency in government jobs. In 2029, in 2019 to 2020, there were youth protests that happened across Iraq against unemployment, corruption. It was met with a violent suppression by the government. It was met with so much dissatisfaction among the general public. Third time we are seeing Nepal Gen Z, Madagascar Gen Z, Iraq Gen Z. From 2020, the Gen Z of Iraq is protesting against corruption and this kind of muhasa system. But every time they erupt in a protest, they are suppressed brutally by the government. Very good morning, Prajesh. Kafala is Saudi Arabia. Correct. Very good. That's beautiful, Rishi. Very good. So now you see what's happening. What is going on, therefore? Although so many voters have registered to vote in Iraq, out of 30 million eligible voters, only 21 have registered to vote. They are not interested. They feel that system is so corrupt. The voter turnout is less than 40%, and you and I talk about Bihar. We say in Bihar, 64% voters have turned out. Look at Iraq. 40% voters only came out. This is when majority candidates are below the age of 40. That shows unhappiness. Unhappiness and distrust in the electoral process of Iraq. What are the security challenges? Security challenge is very big here. Iraq, even today, is dominated by racial, caste-based, ethnic and sectarian militia. The militia terrorism in Iraq is very predominant. If you remember, we often talk about Houthi rebels from Yemen. We talk about Hezbollah from Lebanon. Yes, we talk about Hamas from Palestine. We also talk about the militia. Where are militia based? Militia are based in Iraq. Militia continue to pose security challenges. They also get some kind of support and patronage from senior leaders of Iraq. At the same time, there are certain remaining groups affiliated to the ISIS. There are some Al-Qaeda networks also who continue to pose security challenge. At the same time, the Kurdish separatist aspirations are also there. Just like you reminded me, Reshma, recently Turkey was having a dialogue with the Kurdish leaders regarding giving Kurdish people a separate state, a sovereign state. Yes, from 1999 the war is going on. Here also in Iraq, there is a strong presence of Kurdish representatives. That also destabilizes politics. At the same time, America's presence is still predominant. There are security forces of America. Plus, Iran also has a very strong footprint in this area because Iran is very geostrategically situated here. Look at Iraq's own position. Iraq is a sandwich. Iraq is a pure sandwich between Iran, Syria, Turkey, and the Gulf states. Major oil reserves belong to this area. Always America has its eyes on Iraq. Iran also has eyes on Iraq. Plus, within Iraq, there is so much destabilization. Leader is Prime Minister Sudani is being abused. He is being accused of corruption and nepotism. Elections are happening. People are not ready to participate. So much presence of militia, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Kurdish people is still happening. So now what happened? In this confusion, when elections are going on, Iraq may shift towards a democracy, but then it will not be a normal, functional democracy for sure. That's a difficult challenge to achieve. Let's understand. If you look at OPEC, in the news in the last few months, I have constantly spoken about OPEC and OPEC Plus. OPEC and OPEC Plus. Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Please understand, Iraq is the second largest oil producer. Second largest oil reserves and oil producer in OPEC. Quickly let me know who is the first one. And quickly also remind me, if this is OPEC, then which other countries are a part of OPEC Plus? Then which countries come in OPEC Plus? Quickly remind me, anybody? Yes, that's correct, Kojumba. The 11th, correct. Same like Bangladesh. Yeah, the same situation. Instability. Recently, the ex-Prime Minister, Ms. Hasina said, this election is only a show. There is no real meaning of this election. Now, coming back to this topic, Iraq being the second largest oil producer in the OPEC. I asked you, which is the top oil producer of OPEC? I also asked you, then which two other countries are a part of OPEC plus? Remind me. Okay. So now what is happening in this confusion? Iraq is trying to move away from all this confusion towards a stable democracy. Iran is trying to gain more independence, more autonomy, to break out of the influence of both US and Iran. Somehow, there is a commitment by US that by 2026, US will completely withdraw. There is a commitment that by 2026, US will completely withdraw from Iraq. That's the promise that Iraq is hoping will come true. Iraq is also hoping that by integrating or by completely reforming the Shia militias, Iraq will be able to receive some peace. At the same time, Iran's presence is also a matter of worry for Iraq. So, what does Iraq want to do today? Iraq wants to opt for a more stable democratic government which tries to integrate the separatist militias into the normal functioning of the government. Iraq tries to reduce the strong presence of Kurdish separatist forces. Iraq also is now trying to work towards democratic reforms. Now, looking at the energy sector, Iraq produces 4.5 million barrels of oil per day. Iraq exports 3.6 million barrels per day. And who are the major consumers of this oil? Very, very good, Kojumba. Saudi Arabia is on the top. Very good. So well tried, everybody. But my dear, Eric, I'm seeing you now since morning. Good morning. Okay. So now, Saudi Arabia is the largest producer. And if you talk about OPEC plus, then yes, OPEC plus, Eric says, has other countries like Russia, Oman, Mexico. Very, very, very good. Absolutely. That's very good. The key idea is to keep balancing the global oil prices by balancing them against America's US Texas oil and Russia's crude oil. Okay. So that's the energy market. Very good. Very good, Mumtaz. OPEC Plus has 23 countries. Some of the major ones are Russia, Bahrain, Oman, Sudan. Remember the special name Sudan. Remember the special name Sudan. Why I'm saying Sudan, Sudan? Because Sudan is having a major ethnic war right now. Civil war is going on in Sudan. So remember Sudan. So everybody very well tried. I'm so happy that you're trying. Beautiful. And yes, Saudi is the largest, followed by Iraq. OPEC Plus, 23 members. Other than the main OPEC countries. Key members, Russia, Bahrain, Oman, Sudan. Very good. Very, very good. Okay. Now coming back to the topic. I just told you if Iraq is the second largest oil producer, it is exporting 3.6 million barrels per day. Which are the top two buyers of this oil? Now you will be surprised if you don't know. Top two buyers of this oil. India and China. India and China. There is a plan to expand. Iraq plans to expand its capacity to 7 million barrels per day by 2029. That's the idea behind Iraq's own autonomy when it comes to oil production. Now, looking at India-Iraq relations, all the changes that happen in Iraq will be important to India. It is good for us if Iraq becomes a stable democracy. It's very good for us. Why? Why is it good for us? Because since 1980s, yes, India is deeply involved in Iraqi reconstruction. Just like India has spent dollars of money in Afghanistan before Taliban came, in creating dams, Shehtut, Kabul, Salma, all these dams you remember. Similarly, India spent money in Iraq as well. If Iraq becomes democratic, it's good for India. Second thing is, in 2024 and in 2025, the financial year 24 to 25, the bilateral trade between India and Iraq reached $33.35 billion. Can you imagine? $33.35 billion. Trade imbalance. Now, there is one small problem. Just like I keep telling you about the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Platform Partnership between India and ASEAN. I told you many times in 2019, India walked out of RCEP, the free trade agreement with RCEP. Why? Because with RCEP, India has a negative trade balance. India experiences loss when it comes to trade with RCEP because India can't compete with dairy sectors of New Zealand and Australia. Same in the case of Iraq, also that's true. Although the bilateral trade between India and Iraq touched $33 billion in 2024 to 25. But the reality is that India unfortunately has a trade imbalance with Iraq. Iraq has a much more trade income from India because India is heavily dependent on Iraq when it comes to crude oil. So the ratio of trade is 9:1. India is very negatively impacted here. But with reduced supply of Russian oil, heavy sanctions on Russian oil because of America, EU, because of Ukraine war, the reality is that today India's partnership with Iraq is important. You never know, in future Iraq may be our largest crude oil supplier once again. Because after all, India has to balance its relation with America also. We cannot continue only to import oil from Russia. So Iraq could be the next bet for us, the next best one. So therefore, what can India do? Continue diplomatic engagement with Iraq, continue expanding in Iraq across infrastructure, health, education, hospital, education, culture training. Iraq's parliamentary system is not just about Iraq's own local politics. It is about the reconstruction of entire West Asia. It is about what will now Iran do, what will now Turkey do, and what will now other countries like America do. It is a geopolitical contest going on between US and Iran. Iraq becomes that, cricket pitch where both America and Iran are trying to create their own interest, put their own representatives. So therefore, even in terms of global energy, Iraq's decisions, Iraq's policies are quite important. It is a very crucial strategic West Asian country. So quickly, one question. With reference to, yes, that's why US keeps putting tariff on India in the first place. That's correct, Dilip. Trade deficit aspirant, yes. Now, Mumtaz tells us beautifully. Top OPEC oil producers, Saudi, Iraq, UAE, Kuwait and Iran. Thank you so much, dear. Let's all remember this. And that's the beauty of group study. That's exactly what I expect. That you give comments and we all remember that forever. I mean, until at least we clear the UPSC. Okay, so Mumtaz says, top OPEC producers, Saudi, Iraq. Let's also remember third is UAE, Kuwait and Iran. Thank you so much. Reshma already answered. So did aspirant, so did Sumedh. I am late. Question. With reference to Iraq's geopolitical significance, consider the following. 1. Iraq is the second largest oil producer in OPEC. 2. India is one of the top importers of Iraqi crude oil. 3. US-led multinational forces are scheduled to withdraw from Iraq by 2026. Beautifully answered. Reshma aspirant, Dilip, Sumedh, Saurav, MK, Sitaram, very well answered there. Absolutely correct answer. Yes, that's valid. D, all of these are correct. Very well answered. Now, the last lengthy article of the day is coming from, it is Saudi Arabia. That's correct, Reshma. Very good, very good. Good, Mumtaz. Very good. Now comes last article that's lengthy, and this is about what is the role of pay commission. What's the role of pay commission? Let me quickly summarize this article. The central government of India has recently created the 8th Central Pay Commission, CPC. What has happened? Central government of India, that's correct, Kojumba. Central government of India recently created 8th CPC, Central Pay Commission. Who is the chairperson? Retired Justice Ranjana Prakash Desai. Who is the chairman of the CPC? Who is the chairman? I'm repeating. Retired Justice Ranjana Prakash Desai. Total time has been given as 18 months. 18 months time to submit the report. Who will submit the report? CPC, Central Pay Commission, chaired by Justice Reshma Desai. Within 18 months, report will come. When was the first Central Pay Commission created in India? 1946. What is the policy? Usually every 10 years, a new pay commission should come or as decided by the union government. The pay commission should be relieved. What is the pay commission? A pay commission is a body that is created by the executive, that is the cabinet, union government. Why is it created? To examine the salary structure, to examine allowances, benefits received by central government employees. It gives recommendations to revise these salaries. It gives recommendations to revise these pensions, service conditions, retirement benefits of the central government employees. Although directly the decisions are taken for central government employees, it also impacts the state government employees because these decisions are then extended and borrowed by the respective state governments and implemented at the state level. So indirectly, the state governments also take policies from here. Now, what is the chief thing that we should remember about the 8th Pay Commission today, chaired by Justice Ranjana Desai? One, we have to ensure adequate resources are being given for welfare and development. A balance has to be created between government's burden and employee welfare. Second, there is a huge cost in India that comes because of non-contributory pension schemes. Now, what are non-contributory pension schemes? What are they? See, there are two kinds of pensions. One is contributory, one is non-contributory. In contributory, the employee, while the employee is in job, every month will keep paying some amount of money towards the pension fund. After retirement, with some interest, that money will be given as pension. That is contributory, in which you have participated, you have contributed. Then there are some other policies like non-contributory pension funds. These are more dangerous for the government because here the employee has not contributed anything. After retirement, the government continues to give those pensions based on the average salary or the last earned salary. This is expensive for the government because, unfortunately, as per the data, the total pension expenditure of the Indian government in 2025 to 2026, the pension expenditure of the Indian government is 2.76 lakh crore. Rupees 2.76 lakh crore. And that is a major part of total central revenue expenditure. If the total central revenue expenditure is 39.4 lakh crore, out of that 2.7 lakh crore only goes in pension. That means non-contributory pension is a major financial burden on the government. Then another agenda of the Central Pay Commission will be to compare public sector units with private sector companies and then to create a comparison between the pay structures. Since 1990s, the idea has been to reward performance. The idea behind pay commission is to give money on the basis of performance. The more the government can afford and the more utility public services are adding, the more money will be given to them in form of salary or pension or allowance. But today that trend is changing. Today the government believes, just like private sector, the government should also attract and retain talent. It is not good that government employees leave their jobs and shift towards private sector or entrepreneurship. It is a waste of skill and training. It's a loss for the government, brain drain for the government. So today the Indian government says Central Pay Commission should look into how to attract young individuals in government service and how to retain them, how to make the government services more competitive by offering good salaries at the top positions and basic salaries at the entry positions. But if you compare public sector and private sector, then it's a very strange situation. In government job, entry level jobs pay more. But in private, entry level jobs pay less. In private, senior jobs pay a lot of money. But in government, salaries start stagnating after a certain level of seniority. So these are certain comparisons that the pay commission should do. At the same time, public sector employees in India are still earning much less than the public sector employees across the whole world, and still most people blame that the government salaries are giving too much money. So that is again an invalid misconception that has to be cleared. That although the public employee cost in India is very low as compared to other countries. In other countries, government employees are getting much more salary. In general, there is a myth that Indian government employees are getting more money. They are getting too many benefits. In reality, if you compare with other countries, that may not be true. So therefore, an agenda of the pay commission should also be to balance the entry level salary and the seniority level salary in the government job, just like we have in the private job. For example, today, the ratio under the 7th pay commission is 1 is to 12 is to 5. And that has to be revised. Now, another issue is that when you talk about job security, allowances, all these should also be balanced with salary at the senior level. That is also very important. The government doesn't want to overspend on salaries also. Then another idea behind pay commission is just do not give salary in the form of money or pension. Also provide skill enhancement. Give flexible working hours. Give a good working environment. Provide learning and training for government employees. Provide AI, big data courses for government employees. Also finance their health schemes. Take care of health benefits and promoting healthy environment for work. That should also be included in terms of reference under the 8th Finance Commission. At the same time, the government is also considering that for the government, there is a very key requirement of balancing total revenue of the government with the total amount of welfare scheme that the government is spending on India, on Indian public. If that balance is not maintained, then dependency on the government will further keep on increasing and the quality of public services will erode. So that's why it's very important to balance welfare with attractive salaries with ongoing training as well. One more change that we need. Currently, when you talk about the Central Pay Commission, generally the members are judges, researchers, academia, bureaucrats. But there is the suggestion to include more HR experts, human resource experts from private sector, finance experts, chartered accountants, people who are also expert in the field of consumer behavior. All those people should also come. Financial fiscal management experts should come. So all these people from private sector, if they also become a part of pay commissions, the future policies created by these commissions may be much more effective and really reward the employees rather than outdated policy of simply increasing the salary every 10 years. That's what the article says. Very good. Article 309. That's wonderful, Dilip. Okay. Yes, Reshma. Now the question. With reference to 8th Pay Commission, which of these statements are true? 1. 8th Pay Commission has been constituted under Justice Ranjana Prakash Desai as chairperson. Second, it examines pay structure, service condition, pension of both central and state government employees. 3. The compensation ratio, highest to lowest, of the salary in the current 7th Pay Commission was 1 is to 12 is to 5. And 4. The Central Pay Commission's terms of reference include recommendations on intangible. Intangible means abstract, something that you cannot touch or feel. You can't touch it, you can't see it, but it's there, just like air, just like emotions. That's intangible. So, the terms of reference of the current Pay Commission also has recommendations on learning, flexible working hour, health, promotion, all of that. So which of these do you think are correct? Answers are rolling in. Dilip, Reshma, Sumed, aspirant, Mumtaz, Saurav, everybody has answered, but think again. Look at the third statement. I just told you 5 minutes before that in the current system, we have a very unique problem. At the entry level, the salaries are very good in the government. But as you start getting promoted to senior positions, the salaries get stagnated. In the private, it is not like that. In the private, entry level is low, and as you become senior, the salaries become much higher and attractive. Today, to attract talent and to retain talent, the Indian government also in the public sector, in the government jobs, should have a slow upgradation of salary that increases from entry level to senior level. Right now, the 7th Pay Commission has the ratio of 1 is to 12 is to 5. That's correct. We need to change that. We need to make it more comparable with the private sector so that we keep on upgrading the salary from entry to senior position just like private companies do. But at the same time, the fourth statement is also correct. Ideally, under the terms of reference of the Pay Commission, we should also look at intangible rewards. We should also pay our employees by training them, giving them good work environment, giving them good health policies, taking care of their overall well-being, inviting HR specialists, finance specialists to be a part of finance pay commission. So that's why all of them should be correct, and D becomes then the correct answer. Is that clear? Is it clear to everyone? Mangalam, Reshma, yes, Kojumba? Is there more confusion here? All of them should be correct. One is correct. Yes, she is the chairperson. Second is also correct. That's the reason behind pay commission. Third is also correct. Currently, the ratio is 1 is to 12 is to 5. That's true. But what do we need to do? We need to change that. And last is also correct. Absolutely correct. The pay commissions should also look into other aspects of growth, or not only money. So all the statements are correct. If there is any confusion with this article, I will take it up again and explain it once again. Is that clear? If there's any doubt, please repeat and let me know quickly. You're almost done. The next one only talks about a new policy by the government. The union government has said that all the e-commerce platforms, all the online marketplaces will now have to have a separate category. So when you purchase something from, say, Flipkart, Myntra, Amazon, have you noticed there are categories? There are filters over there, right? Now the government is saying there is a rule that every time you buy something from an e-commerce platform, there has to be a separate filter which has to clarify made in India. Origin of the goods has to be clarified very properly. Very, very properly. So this comes under a rule that will be amended in the draft legal metrology packaged commodities amendment rules 2025. And now the consumer should have a right to know which products are originated in India while shopping. What's the idea behind this initiative? To promote local products, to promote Indian made goods in line with the GI tag and voice for local, vocal for local initiative, Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant India. Is that clear? Now quickly back to the previous question. It says for the central and state government employees. Yes, but that's correct, because although it is examining, it will not give recommendations for the state government employees directly. It will only give protocols for the central government employees, but these protocols or recommendations are also then borrowed for the state government employees. Okay? All right? Yes, quite in line with Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now the next job is about a recent report coming from the Periodic Labour Force Survey, PLFS, GS paper 3. Not a very good news. What is the news? Rural unemployment has come down. That is good, very good. The employment data among people above 15 years of age in rural India has declined to 4.4% from 4.8%. That's a good thing. Unfortunately, the same data says in urban India, it has increased from 6.1% to 6.2% for men and from 8.9 to 9% for women during the same period. So rural India, unemployment declined. Urban India, it increased. Why would this happen? Because in rural India, we have seen an increase in self-employment opportunities, and that makes government successful in terms of National Rural Livelihoods Mission, Manrega, by giving rural population some fixed amount of labor and days to work. Self-employment has increased in rural India. But the problem is in urban India, self-employment has not increased at the same rate, and most people are still working in jobs, salary-based jobs. That's the major reason behind structural unemployment. Although in the rural area, majority population works in the agriculture sector, and in urban area, majority works in the service sector, tertiary sector, but still, overall decline in urban India means people are not into business self-employment. Rural India, people are shifting towards self-employment, and that's a great idea under skilling mission, vocational skills, PM Vishwakarma, Skill India mission. All of that are being fulfilled here. Now, last article, we all know about it. Yesterday, a high intensity blast happened in the Red Fort area in Delhi. About 9 people were reported to have died. The impact was so severe that people could see bodies totally burnt and devastated. The government is investigating after recovering all the evidences that who could be responsible behind that. It has definitely triggered a lot of panic and uncertainty. The political parties are on to blaming each other directly, and that's the situation right now. And the Prime Minister has given his sympathy, given his condolences to those who are impacted, and they also say that Home Ministry is now strictly investigating into it. People should try not to panic. And that's it for today's news. A lengthy comment came and then it disappeared. Okay, so now these are all the answer lists for you here. With regards to the question on pay commission, if there is more confusion, like Mumtaz was mentioning, I absolutely realize that there is some confusion, my dear. And then Reshma was also saying something. We can revise it tomorrow, okay? We'll revise it tomorrow. Whatever confusions, I'll once again bring the question back and discuss with you if the confusion is still there. Okay? Do understand that it provides policies for central government employees, but the state governments also take and derive their policies from the same recommendations. So overall, it does examine the service conditions of both. Although it gives protocols for only the central government, but it does examine the overall development across India. How is it going regarding public services? Okay, so that's it for the day. I'll come back and clarify the doubt tomorrow, whatever doubts you're having. So don't worry, Bacha Mumtaz, okay? I'll come back and clarify tomorrow. Now, one last announcement. The Success in Prelims initiative sale will end on 15th November. Those who are writing the exam next year, please, this could be a great chance for you. It's an intensive crash course that aims to make your prelims absolutely successful in the first go. Plans are very, very simple. 4,999. That's less than 5,000. And you can quickly enroll for this course by using the code SPLY from your screen. How will it help you? Because we take the guarantee of your prelims. In one line, I can say that. By giving you all GS, all CSAT, all current affairs, news, revision, thorough, intense mentorship. So shift the onus of your preparation to us, and that's what you will do if you apply for the SIP Success in Prelims Crash Course. Last date 15th. For those who are writing in 2027, we have an equally exciting offer that's called a sale across all GS courses, including CSAT and current affairs. Similarly, for 2028, this is the new Learners' Day sale that we are celebrating. Use code SPLY when enroll for all these. And if still there is a doubt, please fill up the form. It's here in the description box and we will get back to you. Yes, those classes will be, so for not Times of India, but we will cover the Indian Express. I will only cover Indian Express also now. Shortly, I'm going to start that along with Hindu. So thank you, Muskan, Mumtaz, Eric. Thank you, dear. Thank you, MK, Aspirant, Kojumba, Sitaram, Saurav, Dilip. Thank you so much. Okay, Reshma. All right. Thank you, Rishi, Stumedh, Akash, Biswa. Or I think mostly I have read all the names. Golu. Thank you so much, dear everybody. God bless you, and I'll